My grandfather poured salt in the kitchen floor every night. Now I know why. The heat in the province was different from the heat in the city. It did not just sit on your skin. It pressed down on your chest like a damp, heavy weight. I had moved into my late grandfather's house in a remote corner of the Western Visayas because I could no longer afford the rent in Manila. The house was an old heritage structure, built mostly of dark hardwood and elevated on thick stone pillars. Underneath the main living floor was a wide, shaded crawlspace where the soil was always black and damp. The locals called this area the Silong. When I first arrived, the village seemed ordinary, if somewhat too quiet. The houses were scattered far apart, hidden behind dense groves of banana trees and tall bamboo stalks. I noticed the first strange thing during my second afternoon while I was unpacking my old clothes in the bedroom. There were no dogs in the entire neighborhood. In most provincial towns, you cannot walk 5 meters without a stray dog barking at you from a driveway. Here, there was a total absence of animal sound. No barking, no whining, no distant howling at night. When I asked the local sari store owner about it, an elderly woman named Lilia, she simply stopped wiping her counter. She looked at me for a long 3 seconds. Then she said that the soil here does not agree with 4-legged creatures. She did not explain what that meant. She just went back to wiping the wood. That evening, I set up my small workspace on an old narrow wood table near the window. The house was old, so the floor was made of wide wooden planks that creaked under every step. In the kitchen, the floor changed to traditional split bamboo slats, which allowed you to look directly down into the dark crawlspace beneath the house. If you dropped a coin, it would fall straight through the cracks into the dirt below. At around 8 o'clock, my phone vibrated on the table. It was a text message from my mother back in the city. "Did you check the kitchen floorboards yet?" I typed back quickly, "Yeah, they are just standard bamboo slats. Why?" It took her nearly 10 minutes to respond. "Your grandfather used to pour a cup of rock salt down those kitchen cracks every single night before the sun went down. Make sure you do the same. Do not forget." I stared at the screen. I felt a small, faint prickle of unease. My grandfather had been a quiet, deeply traditional man, but he had never shown signs of severe paranoia before he passed away. I looked at the kitchen floor. The spaces between the bamboo pieces were narrow, about half an inch wide. Beneath them, there was only absolute blackness. The flashlight on my phone could barely pierce the shadows down there. I ignored her message. I did not have any rock salt, and the nearest store was already closed for the night. Around midnight, the ambient insects in the backyard suddenly stopped chirping. The silence was so abrupt it woke me from a light doze at my desk. It was not a gradual fading out of the sound. It was a clean, sharp cut, like someone had turned off a speaker wire. I sat perfectly still in my wooden chair. I listened. From directly underneath my feet, through the thick wooden planks of the bedroom floor, came a soft, rhythmic sound. It sounded like someone dragging a heavy sack of wet laundry across the dirt in the crawlspace. It moved slowly, starting from the front pillars of the house and migrating toward the back where the kitchen was located. I held my breath. My heart beat hard against my ribs. The sound stopped right beneath the kitchen floorboards. Then came the smell. It was a sudden, suffocating odor of old copper pennies left in a jar of river water, mixed with the sharp, sour stink of rotting vegetation. It came up through the cracks in the floorboards, filling the small house within seconds. I stood up, my limbs feeling stiff and cold. I walked toward the kitchen, my bare feet making no sound on the old wood. I stopped just at the edge of the bamboo flooring. I lowered my gaze to the dark, narrow slits between the bamboo. My eyes adjusted to the dim moonlight leaking through the kitchen window. There was something moving down there. It was not an animal. It was a pale, glistening surface that moved with a slow, undulating motion. It looked like a massive, fleshy root, or a thick, skin-textured vine that was slowly wrapping itself around the central wooden stilt of the house. As I watched, the pale surface pressed upward against the underside of the bamboo slats. The bamboo flexed slightly under the pressure. I backed away slowly. My heel hit the sturdier, narrow wood of the living room floor. I did not sleep for the rest of the night. I sat on my bed with my back against the headboard, my eyes fixed on the bedroom door. The next morning, the sun brought a false sense of security. The provincial sky was a bright, clear blue, and the smell of copper was entirely gone, replaced by the familiar scent of wood smoke from the neighboring properties. I walked outside to inspect the crawlspace. I bent down and looked under the house. The dirt was dry and undisturbed. There were no tracks, no dragged marks in the dust, no sign of any massive root. The central wooden pillars looked perfectly normal, their dark applewood dry and cracked with age. I went to the local market to buy groceries and, more importantly, 3 large bags of coarse rock salt. While I was paying the vendor, an old man in a faded denim shirt approached me. He looked around to make sure no one was listening closely. "You are the grandson of Amado, correct?" he asked in a low, raspy voice. "Yes," I replied. "I just moved into his old house." The man nodded slowly. His eyes were cloudy with cataracts. "Your grandfather was a strong man. He kept the boundary tight for 50 years. You have his blood, but you do not have his training. Be careful what you let into your thoughts when you are sitting alone in that house. The dirt down there has a very long memory." Before I could ask him to clarify, he turned and disappeared into the crowd of the wet market. His words stayed with me all the way back to the house. I spent the afternoon pouring thick, heavy lines of rock salt along the entire perimeter of the kitchen floor, making sure the white crystals packed tightly into the spaces between the bamboo slats. It felt ridiculous. I am a college graduate with a degree in data analysis. I do not believe in old province superstitions or ancestral spirits. Yet, my hands were trembling as I emptied the 3rd bag. That afternoon, I received a text from my childhood friend, Mark, who was still living in the city. "Hey man, how is the province life? You surviving out there?" I wanted to tell him about the sounds and the old man at the market, but I did not want to sound like I was losing my mind after only 48 hours of isolation. "It is quiet," I typed. "A bit too quiet. No internet except mobile data. The house is super old." "Cool, hey, your mom called me earlier. She seemed really worried about you. She said you were not answering her calls." I frowned. I checked my phone log. There were no missed calls from my mother. My signal indicator showed 3 full bars. "That is weird," I replied to Mark. "I have my phone right next to me. She has not called." "Well, just check in on her. She sounded like she was crying." I dialed my mother's number immediately. The phone did not even ring. It went straight to a generic recorded message stating that the number was no longer in service. I tried again. The same result. I felt a cold, heavy drop in my stomach. I opened our previous text conversation. The message she had sent the night before about the rock salt was still there, but when I looked at the timestamp, it read January 1st, 1975. That was 21 years before I was even born. I sat down on the floor. The wooden planks felt unnaturally cold against my skin. I stared at the text message screen. The blue light seemed to flicker, casting long, twitching shadows across the narrow wood walls. Was I hallucinating? Was the isolation causing some kind of psychological break? I closed my eyes, took 5 deep breaths, and opened them again. The timestamp had not changed. 1975. At 7 in the evening, the insects stopped again. The transition was identical to the previous night. Instant silence. The air inside the house grew thick and stagnant, carrying that same sour, metallic tang of old pennies. I stood in the center of the living room, holding a heavy metal flashlight in my right hand. Thumping. It was a heavy, dull impact from directly beneath my feet. The floorboards vibrated against my soles. Thump, thump. It sounded like something massive and soft was thrown against the underside of the floor, trying to test the strength of the wood. I walked into the kitchen, my heart hammering so loud I could hear the blood rushing through my ears. I shone the flashlight down through the bamboo slats. The rock salt was gone. Not fallen through the cracks, but dissolved. The bamboo pieces were wet, coated in a thick, clear, viscous fluid that looked like internal secretions or heavy mucus. The salt crystals had completely liquefied into a grayish slime that was slowly dripping down into the black soil below. From the darkness beneath the slats, a voice spoke. It did not sound like a monster. It sounded exactly like my mother. It had her specific vocal tone, her exact cadence, her slight city accent. "Did you check the kitchen floorboards yet?" The voice whispered from the dirt. I dropped the flashlight. It rolled across the bamboo, its beam of light sweeping across the ceiling, revealing long, dark stains on the rafters that I had never noticed before. The stains looked like human handprints, but the fingers were too long, stretching nearly 30 centimeters across the old wood. "You are not my mother," I said aloud. My voice cracked. I was terrified by how small and fragile I sounded in the empty house. The voice from beneath the floor giggled. It was a wet, bubbling sound. "Your grandfather used to pour the salt because he thought it would dry us out, but it just makes the soil taste better. We have been waiting for the third generation to come back to the roots. Your blood is so much thinner than his." I turned and ran toward the front door. I grabbed the old iron handle and pulled. The door did not budge. It felt like it had been welded into the frame. I threw my weight against the heavy wood, screaming for help. Outside, the banana tree stood completely still under the moonlight. There was no wind, no sound from the neighbors. The village was dead. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out with slippery, sweat-slicked fingers. It was a text from Mark. "Hey, I just talked to your dad. He says your mom passed away 5 years ago in the hospital. What are you talking about? Who are you texting?" I stared at the screen. My brain refused to process the characters. My mother died 5 years ago. No, that was wrong. I remembered her helping me pack my boxes in Manila just 3 days ago. I remembered her giving me the keys to this house. I remembered her voice, her smell, the blue dress she wore at the bus station. Or did I? I tried to visualize her face, but the image inside my memory was shifting. The eyes were too wide, the skin was too pale, and her mouth was opening in a wide, toothless, circular shape that looked exactly like the hollow end of an old tree root. I clutched my head. My skull felt like it was splitting open under the weight of two conflicting realities. Which one was real? Was I a data analyst from the city who moved to the province? Or was I something else that had been sitting in the dark for a very long time, dreaming about a city life that never existed? From behind me, the sound of the dragging sack returned. It was no longer under the house. It was inside the living room. I turned around slowly, my back pressed hard against the locked front door. The flashlight on the kitchen floor was still on, casting a long, low beam of light across the wooden planks of the main room. Emerging from the hallway that led to my bedroom was a shape. It was a human form, but it was completely wrong. It had my exact height, my exact clothes, my exact frame, but it did not walk on 2 feet. It crawled on its belly, its limbs moving with a slow, fluid, disjointed motion like a caterpillar or a large reptile. Its skin was not flesh. It was a dark, fibrous, bark-like material that seemed to ripple and twitch with every movement. Where the face should have been, there was only a flat, smooth surface of raw, pale wood, but as it moved into the beam of light, the wood began to split. It cracked open in a jagged, horizontal line across the center of the head. "It is time to check the baseline," the duplicate said. It used my own voice. the exact voice I use when I talk to myself in the dark. I looked down at my own hands. The flashlight beam caught my fingers. They were not shaking anymore. They were completely rigid. The skin on my wrists was dark, dry, and patterned with fine, circular grooves that looked exactly like the growth rings of an ancient hardwood tree. I tried to lift my left arm, but the muscles felt like dry fiber, stiff and unyielding. I looked back at the creature crawling toward me. It was smiling now, the crack in its wooden face widening to reveal thousands of tiny, black, needle-like teeth made of calcified bone. The text message on my phone screen blinked one last time. It was not from Mark. It was from an unknown sender with no number. Thread title: Our Folklore. The third generation always returns to the soil to complete the cycle of the Salansin. The final message read: the grandson named Amato died in the city 5 years ago from a severe fever. The entity in the crawlspace spent 5 years cultivating his memories from the old letters left in the house, trying to grow a perfect human skin. The simulation is complete. The replacement has arrived at the front door. You can stop playing the analyst now. I looked at the locked door behind me. Then I looked down at my feet. The wooden floorboards beneath my legs were no longer solid. They were dissolving into fine, black, damp soil that was slowly rising up around my ankles, pulling me down into the deep, dark silence of the Silong below. I didn't try to scream this time. I closed my eyes, and for the first time since I arrived, I felt completely at home.